You know, the very first time I took out my A7S III, man, I was so excited. Like, I saw all these reviews about all this beautiful videos that everybody was getting coming out of the A7S III. They were using S-Log 3. Man, every video was just so beautiful. And I was like, man, I can't wait to get videos looking like that. And first time I took it out, you know, I was in aperture priority mode. I was in S-Log 3. I was filming around everything. Got back into post, and I mean, my footage looked like absolute trash. Absolute trash. And I'll tell you why. You see, it's pretty difficult to shoot in S-Log 3. I mean, there's a trick to it. You have to be experienced in using your camera to get good results out of shooting in S-Log 3. And I was in automatic ISO. And my ISO was getting up there to around the 4,000 level. And when you get around ISO 4,000 or 5,000 with the A7S III, your footage looks like absolute garbage. That's what was going on the very first time that I used my A7S III. And you know, everybody calls the A7S III and any camera using that particular sensor a low light beast because the dual gain ISO changes over at 12,800. And it is true, the A7S III is a low light beast. And it is true, any camera using that particular sensor, they'll all be great in low light if you're up around the 12,800. But the problem is when you get into those mid-range ISOs, your footage starts looking like total junk. If you look here, you start off at 640, and then you have all these different ISO values until you hit 12,800. And then 12,800, the footage cleans up again and you kind of start over. But you get into these 2,500 to 6,400 range and your footage just starts to turn to absolute mush, just absolutely terrible, grainy footage. Coincidentally, when you're using like shutter speed priority or aperture priority, these middle apertures, when you're in kind of a semi-low light environment, these middle apertures is where your camera wants to be. And I found that cameras like, let's take the A7 IV for instance, it resets at 3,200. So, you know, you get decent ISO performance and at 3,200, it switches over. So you have until like 5,000 or 6,400. And then you can start, it starts to turn into pretty bad footage. The FX30, it switches over at 2,500, so you have 2,500, maybe to 5,000 before your footage starts looking real grainy. But the A7S III, FX3, any of those cameras using that particular sensor, any ISO values in this particular range are going to look bad. So if you get into these ISO ranges, you have to switch over to 12,800. You have to keep an eye on what your ISO value is. And if you're planning on using any of the automatic modes, just be aware that you're going to have to keep a close eye on the ISO value or your footage is going to look like total junk. I'm really concerned that a lot of people are going to buy this for their first full frame camera because it's a little bit cheaper than all the rest of them. And they're going to go out there and try to shoot an S-Log 3 and going to be really disappointed with the results. If I was a first time camera owner, I would definitely look into the FX30, the A7 IV, a camera like that, where you can make better use out of those mid-range ISOs. And you'll be able to shoot in those automatic modes just a little bit easier. So anyway, that's kind of simple to an explanation to it. There's a lot more that goes into it than that. The 12,800 ISO can be really valuable, not only in low light, but like if you're shooting in semi-low light and want to shoot in higher f-stop, then you can switch over to the 12,800 and get clean footage looking that way. I'm just saying that the dual gain ISO set at 12,800, it's nice, and it's nice to have, and it looks great. But you have to know what you're doing, or your footage is going to look like junk. So let me know what you think about the ZV-E1. Do you think it's a beginner camera? I don't know. It's a little bit too expensive, I think, for a beginner camera. And I think anybody starting off with this, that particular sensor may be sorely disappointed when they get their footage and just realize how much work is going to have to go into making it look good. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.